So if this is the first video that you're seeing of the tiny house build, go ahead and go back to part 1 and you can get the details of how we picked this up and why we picked this up in more detail than I can give you now anyways. This is a 70-foot by 14-foot mobile home chassis, kind of like you would use on a mobile home like that. And we're going to be using it to build our tiny house on. This section is like a 40-foot section. That section is the rest of it, which is about 30 feet. We went ahead and picked this up on that trailer, which hung over 20 feet, of course. And then this section's hanging over quite a bit. But the reason we did that is because it was complicated to get axles in time to put on there. And then I didn't want the seller to sell this before we could buy it. So I ended up going over there, cutting it, and then taking it off with this trailer. Now we can come back, jack it up, put axles underneath of it and a lot of stuff. But that'll be in a later video. Today's video is going to be all about prepping and cleaning all the rusty areas, taking off the old wiring harnesses and stuff that's left over, any lag bolts that are still in the frame and stuff like that. So that's the plan today. Probably going to start in the front, work my way back. That way the neighbors have something pretty to look at. This is a little test spot that we did the other day. We took a grinder, put a wire wheel on the front of it, and cleaned it, and then see if we can get the sun out of that way, and then painted it. Of course, this is with semi-gloss, and so it's a little shiny than I want. So I'll probably use up the rest of that can, of course, but then we'll come back and we're going to be using a Rust-Oleum paint, which I have here on the floorboard of my truck. We're going to try this out anyway. So I've used it for lots of projects and it's worked well. You can spray this if you thin it out, or you can roll it or brush it on. We're probably just going to brush it on because it's not super important. This is an oil-based paint and it is a satin black, so it shouldn't be as shiny, which will be nice. So with no further ado, let's get into the work of prepping the trailer and then painting it. We'll probably even do some pressure washing to get all the dirt off, because there's this dirt everywhere from being in the ground, of course. But overall, the trailer's in pretty good shape. We'll do a little walkover of it. So it's got these wings here, which will be used to hold down the floor and support the walls. And it's got holes in the frame where you can bolt lag bolts through, so that'll be really handy. This frame has been pieced together in the past, probably from factory, but it could be prettied up, so we might grind that up and pretty it up a little bit. As long as it's strong enough, we'll leave it because it's not a big deal. There's a few blemishes like this where they maybe dropped it on an axle or something. Not a big deal. I'm not too worried about that. As long as this frame isn't bent down or up, we can work with it. So that's about it. So no further ado, let's get into prepping and painting. the pressure washing is done and it looks so much better. Of course, on camera, it looks pretty gnarly still, but this, of course, has been wire wheeled and pressure washed. It's actually pretty smooth. And we might do like a rust converter on it one day. But for now, I'm gonna see how the painting goes. This is, of course, just aesthetic, just to kind of protect it a little bit, not too much. It's not really a fancy thing. If I had like druthers, I would probably, I mean, if I had all the money in the world, I probably wouldn't be using a $500 chassis from Marketplace. But since I am, I mean, you could probably sandblast the entire thing and make it perfect, and then do a primer coat and a seal coat and all that stuff, but it's not important. So we wire with all the heavy stuff off, and we'll come back and probably grind some things eventually. We'll see what it looks like after the paint, because we can come back and touch things up. Like if this grind isn't suiting my fancy, if this weld isn't, I can grind it back down. But like I said, it's going to be underneath the house and it's not structurally important, the paint isn't, so just to make it look cleaner. I'm gonna start here on the front because the neighbors see that, and so it'd be nice if it was nice and clean like this. Of course, this is spray painted. I had a little extra can of spray paint of the same stuff basically, except for this is semi-gloss and I'm using satin. So I'm going to satin the whole front here, and as far as I can make it with a quart and see how long that makes me, I'll probably end up having to buy a gallon. But I want to start with this, so I'll shake this oil-based paint up just to make sure it's nice and mixed. And then I'm going to take a brush and start with that. So it might be a lot easier to do like a spray-on thing. But if you did spray cans, it'd take you 30 cans, and it would be very expensive and very time-consuming and wear out your fingers. And you can mix this stuff into a sprayer and spray it, which I have a little sprayer. But we'll see how brushing goes. If brushing doesn't go good, then we'll spray it. So anyways, no further ado, let's get into some painting. I'm pretty happy with how the painting is turning out, even though it's taking forever. Not really, it's not taking that long, but we started brushing and I was like, well, I can get a roller, I can roll it, and then I can brush the corners. So that's what I did. I went and got a roller and an old nail bucket and did some painting. So that's what a quart of Rust-Oleum paint can cover. Liberally, but enough painted there. So it looks nice. I even painted over the other black. That way it's all the same sheen, so all satin. It looks pretty good. I think it looks pretty good. So lots of nooks and crannies to put the brush in as well. But overall, I think I'm quite happy with that. It's very satisfactory. So now I just have to paint the rest of it. I'm going to look into what I need to thin it down to use a sprayer. because that would be a lot easier on my body, and probably a lot better at getting in the corners and on the bottom of the rails and stuff like that. So anyways, what do you think? I think it looks pretty clean, doesn't it? Looks like a brand new frame. So I'm hoping, at least since I've got this painted, when people, especially my neighbors, drive by, they're not like, oh, gross, they have all this junk in their yard. These are all projects too, by the way. So anyways, what do you think? That looks pretty good. Since I don't have the money or time to continue on today with more painting or supplies, that's gonna be it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a comment below of anything you want to know about on this project or what the plans are. I'd love to share. And look, don't forget to look in the description. Have a good one. God bless.